We're going to take a look at a safe place to call home because too many women in Australia and around the world are living in unsafe or unstable housing, if in fact they have housing at all.
There's one thing we probably learnt in the last 7 years that I've been here is, and this is true, I think, for a lot of people, a home is more than just a roof over your head. It gives you that safe place. You can build connections with your community. You can hold down your job. You can have relationships, and you're looking after your health. So we're sitting here, and our number one issue is there are not enough homes. And that is just a fact. And there's not enough homes for women and women's needs, and that is a key part. And when we think about that, it's like, it's great, but it's going to take time. So there is no overnight solution for us at the moment on solving the housing crisis. We've got to wait for all these houses to be built. The why we're building housing as well, but that's a 2 to 3 year pipeline, not a tomorrow pipeline.
So for many women, a safe place to live is not a guarantee, as we've pointed out in this in the prelude to this question. What are the realities you're seeing on the ground?
It's interesting. I think when I said, if you had asked me 7 years ago when I first started, how many people would have been impacted or know someone who's impacted from housing insecurity, I know I'd get 1 or 2 hands that are being put up, and that would be about it. I asked the same question about a month ago, and nearly every single person in the room had put their hand up. Everyone pretty much in Australia knows somebody or has actually impacted themselves. And this is about the conversation that's starting. So on the ground, when I was chatting to my Northern Territory General Manager, this is how it looks and this is how it feels for our team members and our clients and women at the moment. Women and children aren't able to leave abusive situations because there's nowhere to go. Women aren't able to really hold down a job because it's really hard to do that when you're sleeping in your car, sleeping in a tent or couch surfing. There is not enough money for the basics of food and medical supplies. Children can't go to school because there's no safe place for them to sleep. So this is what our teams see day in, day out on the ground. And you are searching for that unicorn piece, and that is, where is the housing piece in that? If you can get the housing and then put the support services around it, then you've got a lot better chance of women being able to stay housed and have a proper home, more than just a roof over their head.
And there's a misconception that homelessness happens to a certain type of person, be it male or female. Can you talk about the women who never thought it would happen to them?
Yeah, I think we all think at a point in time it happens to someone else, and we don't want to think that it could actually happen to us. But the truth is it does. And I think of women, and for us, those society cards are a bit stacked up against us for the housing insecurity, because if we think about the gender pay gap, the lower amounts of super, the more unpaid work we need to do when we take career breaks, and that joy of doing those financial negotiations in divorces and separations, all those really impact women's housing security. I was talking to a lady, I think she was just in her 70s, and she was fabulous. Her husband had just passed away, which was sad. She was going through those emotions, but she actually turned to anger really quickly, because what she'd found out was she thought she was going to have a safe family home, but her husband had actually gambled away their house, and they were actually renting back, and she had no idea. So she was sleeping in a car, and she was too embarrassed to tell her kids. And that's what we find is women don't like coming forward. They don't like seeing services. We had an amazing young woman the other day. She's a new young mum, and she'd been living in the same house for about 8 years, but the owners decided they wanted to sell, and they gave her 3 months' notice, which was all very fair. But the problem you have is, where is that unicorn rental home that she's going to get as a new mum? So luckily we managed to get her a space in time, and she didn't need to experience homelessness. But these are everyday stories. So you don't think it's going to happen to you, but actually when you look around, and you just have to see the community posts. If you're looking on your local community board, you will see lots of people wanting housing, a lot of mums, a lot of kids. And you walk down your streets, you can see the tent cities now, where people have had to take their belongings that they've got out of their home, and that's all they've got left. That's all they could carry, and they've got it in their tent. So I think for us, it's not about any particular choices that you make. It is actually the biggest systemic barriers that we have at the moment.
Why are we regressing? Why are these numbers growing?
Yeah, it's definitely a crisis for us. And I think there's kind of 4 areas if I thought about it. One was stating the obvious that I said before, there are not enough houses. There's just not. And look, the governments are doing a lot to build them, but that certainly takes time. But we need to make sure that it also meets the needs of women, because we do have particular unique needs when we're doing housing. And what we find is housing is a general product at the moment, but what we actually need to do is making sure we're developing it for women. The changes in policy approach, and this goes back to the women's housing framework that we've designed, is making sure that you actually build houses that are right for women and their needs. At the moment, it's a value for money. And so a lot of women that experience homelessness actually have children. So you end up building a lot of 1 and 2 bedroom homes, and the 3 and 4 bedroom homes are few and far between. So we'll have a lot, but they're not actually going to meet the needs of women and their families when they're actually seeking solutions. That for us we find quite key. So we're hoping the government in the next round will actually adjust that. And the hardest one to talk about at times is family and domestic violence. That is not going down. And the leading cause of homelessness for women is family and domestic violence. I think when a lot of people think about it, they think about crisis and shelters, and that is certainly needed, but it's actually that long-term housing. Where are you going to go afterwards? There is not enough long-term housing for women when they're actually wanting to leave the shelter or the crisis centre that they're at. And so that's why a lot of women do stay in very unsafe situations. And the last one is one I think we don't talk about enough, and that is support services. So we talk a lot about building houses, but what we don't talk about is the support needs around it. So what support do you need when you're moving into your house? What support do you need to stay in your house? I find it quite interesting when we did the women's housing framework, and we developed that with women by women, and they told us what they needed. And it's not complex, and it's not difficult. But I'll just give you an example, if that's all right. The security. So security we take for granted. I think how often when you walk home, do you then stand in front of your house and think, is it safe for me to go into my house? Do I have a lit path going down the road? Do I have to actually turn a corner and someone might be standing there for me? Is my lift closed off? Because I don't want my ex-partner to be able to come to my floor. We were chatting with one of the ladies, and the architect's going, it's great, you've got to lower the fence because then you get a lot more light in your house. And the lady's going, that's fantastic. I actually don't care about the light. What I care about is I want it higher so my ex-abusive partner can't see over my fence and watch me from across the street. So these are the things that we're looking at and making sure that we want to make sure that the housing is built for women and meets their needs.